Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com. Take two. So, we're going to try discussing fourth generation techno-cultural warfare again. And the error is not related to YouTube. It has something to do with a clash between my gaming headset mic and my regular mic. So what I need to do is just make sure that I turn one off, the other one on in a specific order. So I think we've got it set, and now I know how to avoid this in the future. So the robots have been defeated for now. So I want to talk about the application of the 4 generations of modern warfare and what we call fourth generation warfare to the techno-cultural war in which we are presently engaged. And I also want to let you know how we are addressing that and how you can help us and take part in what we're doing to win it. So I played a little bit of an audiobook for you earlier. I'm going to play it again this time, just because this is the stream that's going to remain up. But what we learned and what we have seen is that the big media, big social, big tech cannot be trusted. You guys already know about Indiegogo deplatforming Archaven. You already know about all the various deplatformings that have taken place with regards to the payment processors, with regards to Twitter, Facebook, and so forth. Well, we don't believe that Amazon and Audible are necessarily going to deplatform people. They tend to be much more focused on the business side. But what we do believe, and we have very good reason to believe, is that Amazon is in the process of doing in the book publishing world what they have been doing in the physical publishing world. And what's happening there, and what's going to continue to happen there due to a recent promotion, is that Amazon has always been divided into two different pieces. I'm talking about their core business. They're actually into AWS and cloud and all that sort of thing. But if you look at their core business, they have what you can consider a wholesale side, and they have a retail side. And those two businesses have very different outlooks. And so, and what you see is that the wholesale side just wants to help third-party people sell their stuff. They're basically a distributor. But the retail side competes with the wholesale side, and they compete effectively with the wholesale side. And in fact, what they've been known to do is to look at a successful product, like a successful frying pan, just to pick a random example. And then the retail side will go out and source manufacturing of a very similar frying pan, and they'll put it for sale in competition with the original one. And then they will use their algorithms and so forth, just like when you go to buy a print book. What does it say? Hey, you can get this Kindle book for free. Don't buy this book from this publisher, even though it's from us. Buy the Kindle book instead. And they do the same thing with the with these retail alternatives to the wholesale products. Now, this has been a tension that's existed at Amazon for the last 10 years, but the recent promotion of the guy who used to run the retail side to the entire operation almost certainly means that they're going to continue to push the retail aspect of Amazon as opposed to the wholesale aspect. And so what this means is that you're going to see more and more books being pushed to Kindle Unlimited, to 47 North. And if you look at the way that they've priced the Kindle Unlimited books, it's virtually identical to the 35% royalty that you get paid there. And so I suspect that what's going to happen relatively soon is that you're going to see the royalty rate at Amazon fall to 35%. And that's going to have a horrific effect on most independent publishers, whether they're self-publishers or whether they're small independent publishers like Castalia House. And the big threat is that if you're not one of the chosen winners, if you're not an algorithm favored author, then you are not going to be very successful. You're not going to see these big, huge numbers that best-selling authors like Nick Cole and some of the military science fiction guys see. And we've seen this again and again. We see our books doing really well, and then they just don't pick up the momentum that the other ones do because they don't get the benefit of the algorithm push. We have had our books be the benefit of the algorithm push in the past. It's great. Your book stays at the top of its category indefinitely, for as long as 2 years. But if you don't get the benefit of the algorithm push for whatever reason, and I am not saying that this is something that is politically motivated. I don't believe it is. There may be some aspects of it from time to time, but if you look at some of the authors who get the benefit of it, they're not being pushed because they're SJWs or anything like that. But it's just something that you cannot rely upon. And so the big issue that you need to see is when you have to build your own platforms, and in fact that's why we are seeing Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin making noises about replacing Patreon and so forth, because they want to set up new gatekeepers. They want to make themselves the gatekeepers rather than Patreon. They have no interest in, they're not going to let anyone that they consider to be bad thinkers or Nazis or anything else. They're going to be doing the same thing, and so it's not a likely alternative. And in fact, I think that the big centralized platform is not a wise choice for anyone who hopes to remain independent, because the temptation to control things is simply going to be too great. We're even subjected to that to a certain degree. I get submitted books all the time that, you could accuse us of playing gatekeeper just because, I'm not interested in, even with friends, I'm not interested in publishing a book that is about the minutia of Catholic theology, because I'm not equipped to even deal with it. The amount of time I would have to spend just to get up to speed to begin to edit it is not worth it. Now, are we gatekeeping? No. We're just performing an editorial function. But the distinction between an editorial function and a gatekeeping function is intrinsically related. It's very easy to go from one to the other. So what we're doing, and also with audiobooks, we looked at the numbers, and even though you're supposedly being paid a certain royalty, if you actually do the math on it, it turns out that you're getting paid about 2/3 of what they say you're going to get paid. And so what we're looking to do is that we're looking to maximize our independence to the greatest extent possible. So, for example, with regards to Indiegogo, what did we do? We went out and we built our own crowdfunding engine. What are we doing now with Amazon? Well, let me give you an example. We just recently, on our Archaven store, we just recently added the ability for people to buy audiobooks. Now, right now, we only have 2 audiobooks up there, and we're not going to be able to sell most of the audiobooks that we've already committed to Audible because they locked us in for a 7-year exclusivity period. And so, but the new books that we have coming out, books like Jordanetics, books like A Throne of Bones audio, we're going to be able to sell directly to people from our store. And so we hope that people will avail themselves of that option. And as we improve things, then we'll look at possibly doing our own app and all that sort of thing. We're not that interested in trying to make this become a big alternative platform. We just want it to be an effective outlet for Castalia and Archaven authors. So let me play this for you. This is a sample from a novella that I published a few years ago. This is the precursor to A Throne of Bones, and it actually features several of the characters who are perspective characters in the epic fantasy. So I'm going to play this for a few minutes just so you can hear what kind of quality we're able to produce and deliver.
The sun broke without warning over the mountain tops to the south, spilling much-needed warmth over the camp of the traveller. It had been a hard night, a cold and cheerless one in their rude, makeshift shelter, but he took solace in the knowledge that it would be his last night in the wilds for the foreseeable future. He shared a few meagre strips of smoked beef with his guide, who, 10 days into their journey, was every bit as grim and silent as he had been since his services were first engaged on the far side of the high mountain pass. The half-barbarian Tassini were a dark and stocky lot, as little inclined to give up their secrets as the dwarves who lived in massive underground cities somewhere beneath these very mountains. So short and broad-shouldered was the guide that he might easily have been mistaken for a dwarf, were it not for the hawkish features on his clean-shaven face. The guide was very nearly as unfriendly as a dwarf too, the man who was presently calling himself Nicholas thought, vaguely annoyed at his inability to crack the man's reserve. Even now, with their journey together nearly at an end, the Tassino still refused to meet Nicholas's eyes, and looked away when Nicholas was doing no more than passing him a hardened heel of week-old bread. Though it was irritating, Nicholas found he had to respect the other's stubborn reticence. And, he reminded himself, that reticence served his purpose well. His hunger satisfied, if not his palate, Nicholas rose to his feet and stretched his arms and back. The sunlight was a godsend.
So, that is a example of the audiobook of Magic Broken. It's a fantasy novel, and if you want to check it out, it's available for $3.99 at archavencomics.com. You can just find it there, look it up. A Magic Broken, narrated by Nick Afka Thomas. And we also have another audiobook, and it is this one, The 4 Generations of Modern War. This is actually a lecture given by William S. Lind, and it's also available for $3.99. This is the original lecture that he gave to the Marine Corps. I believe this is actually recorded at Quantico, and it's really, really interesting. These two audiobooks are not very long. 4 Generations of Modern War, by and narrated by William S. Lind, is about 52 minutes long, and I think A Magic Broken is something like, I don't know, hour and 15 minutes or something like that. What we're also planning to do is to keep the prices very low. I understand that $3.99 is not particularly low for these short books, but we're also including the ebooks with them. And our goal is to keep the normal average 6 to 10 hour book. We're going to be offering them at a price of $9.99. So that's considerably cheaper than the $14.99 to $17.99 that Amazon and Audible. Clip of the Limb book. Yeah, we can do that actually. Good idea. I should have actually thought of that. Hang on a second. Let me find it. Where do I have? Oh, there we go. Maybe. Crikey. Okay. Let's give it a try.
What I'm going to lay out for you here today is an intellectual framework. Now, what is that? Intellectual framework is a tool, intellectuals call it a construct, that we use to make sense of events, historical and or contemporary. Because an intellectual framework is a tool, we judge it like all other tools by its utility. Is it useful or not? Does it or does it not help us to better understand what we're trying to understand? And that's a judgment that you will have to make for yourselves. It's important that we begin, however, by noting what we are trying to understand. We spend incredible amounts of money and time and effort trying to understand our opponents. And this will perhaps be of some use in that respect as well. But we spend virtually no time or effort trying to understand ourselves, to put ourselves in some sort of broader context so that we can see ourselves. Colonel John Boyd, America's greatest military theorist, used to say that it is a rule of life, as of mathematics, that you cannot determine the consistency of a system from inside itself. To see anything, you have to stand outside it.
Now, obviously, the quality of that particular lecture is nowhere nearly as good as the professionally recorded, studio recordings that we do for all of our audiobooks. But we decided not to do a separate reading of that one simply because the chance to have the actual author of 4GW talking specifically about the concept that he helped come up with, I think couldn't be missed. I mean, audio quality is very important. I'm from the music industry originally, and so we focus on providing very good audio quality in general. But I would love to be able to listen to Sun Tzu reading The Art of War, to actually hear the way that Lind is thinking on his feet here, is something that you wouldn't want to miss. So, but anyhow, again, if you're interested in picking up either of these audiobooks, these are the first 2 audiobooks that we have on offer. A Magic Broken, 4 Generations of Modern War, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to have Jordanetics for sale very soon. I think that Jordanetics will be available within something like 2 weeks, maybe less. So, someone asked how the sales of Jordanetics are going. They're going quite well. The paperback is now out. I might as well pop it up here. The paperback's now out, and we're quite pleased with how it's going. And yes, the Jordanetics paperback is available at the Castalia Direct Store. We haven't merged the Castalia Archaven Direct Stores with the Archaven Comic Store yet. We probably will be doing that at some point in time, probably in the next year, but not tomorrow. But it goes well beyond this. We're in the process of getting our own servers set up. I mean, we already have our own servers set up via hosting, but anytime you even have dedicated servers, you are vulnerable to the hosting service. And so what we're in the process of, is making sure that we set everything up in as bulletproof a manner as possible. And so, we may find soon, if you're part of the burn unit, you may find very soon that we are going to need you to switch away from PayPal. PayPal has been getting squirrely lately, and so we are not optimistic that they can be relied upon much longer. And so if you notice, there is no PayPal option at the Archaven store. We don't use PayPal at the Castalia Direct Store. I think it's an option, but it's not our primary focus. And so, it's very, very important, if you want to continue to support these things, that you migrate with us and with others as they move away from the converged platforms. The more that you stick with PayPal and Audible and all these sorts of things, the more it will be difficult for you to find the cultural items that you want to support. And so, it's going to be, I mean, this is a cultural war. It is a relatively bloodless one, but it's definitely a long-term struggle. It's not a battle. There are the individual battles. We're going to win our battle with Indiegogo. We've already won our battle with Indiegogo. It's just not over yet. But we've already completely neutralized their attempt to obstruct us. Completely neutralize it. And now we are going after them. And so even if they manage to escape this second part of it unscathed, which I very much doubt. Here's how bad it was, by the way. This is how bad it was. When they originally froze our account on October 11th, and this is nearly 2 weeks after they were supposed to have paid us, after they said they were going to pay us, they sent us this email saying, we had to freeze your account because we need some additional information because there's some unusual activity, right? And so we sent them information. We said, well, what information do you want? They didn't even ask us for any information. They just said there's unusual activity and we may need some additional information. So we send them the email saying, what is this unusual activity? What other information do you need? 11 minutes after they sent that email making this accusation and saying they're going to need to get some more information and everything, 11 minutes after they sent that, they refunded all 1,436 backers. So it was obviously a complete lie. Complete lie. And so now, of course, the U.S. legal system is not exactly concerned with justice or black letter law. We will find out how much, if any, justice can be found in the arbitration system. We don't know. There's only one way to find out. But we are doing exactly what our backers want us to, because we are going in hard. The claim is going to be filed this coming week, and the backers have already organized their own separate claim, which they're going to be filing the following week. And so, it's going to be something that we are going to follow through on. We always follow through on this stuff. And that's why you can trust us, and why we hope that you will continue to support us from platform to platform, and preferably when we have our own platforms on those direct platforms, because we're not going to quit, we're not going to submit, and you can trust that. And so, we don't want people to be controlling this. We don't want to control it ourselves. We just want to be able to do what we're doing, to make to publish our books, to do these videos. And so, we are always ready. We are always prepared to be deplatformed. As you know, I'm prepared to be deplatformed from this channel at any moment. You guys joke about it every time everything goes wrong. Oh, here it is. And I understand it will be difficult if you, it will be difficult if you have to switch over from watching it live on YouTube to live on stream.me or later on BitChute and that sort of thing. But, it's what we have to do. I mean, we didn't choose this situation. We didn't choose to get caught up in a culture war. All we want, like Ralph says, all we want is to be left the fuck alone. But we know that SJWs can't do that. SJWs cannot permit any space for dissenting voices. And that's the reality. And so we need to be aware of that. We need to not whine about it. We need to not cry about it. We need to act. And that requires both sides. It requires us to do stuff, and it also requires you guys to be willing to make those sacrifices too. And I don't mean sacrifices in terms of money and stuff. I mean, you guys are great about that. But, giving up the comfort of sticking with your customary familiar platforms. What are SJW's endgame? They don't think in terms of that. They believe that if they can just control everything, everything will magically turn out well. It never works that way. I mean, it's astonishing to watch these television shows just destroy themselves by constantly pushing, interracial relationships, constantly pushing the black guy, the blonde woman, and so forth. I was pointing out how ridiculous it is. How often do you see a black guy and a blonde woman? Now, how many times do you see an Asian man or a Hispanic man and the blonde woman. There are 3 times more Hispanic men in the United States, maybe even more considering the sexual imbalance of the Hispanic population, because of there's actually more male immigrants than female immigrants. But how often do you see that? You don't see that because it's not being pushed, because it's not an artificial thing. And these products fail. These companies fail. Dick's virtue signals about not selling rifles, not selling assault weapons. They have to close 31 stores. The Boy Scouts get converged, and now they're going bankrupt. It's incredible, but nothing stops them. You see the same thing in the churches. You see it everywhere. And so, and so we have to simply stop supporting it, and we have to support the things that that uphold our vision of society. Let's see. The Bears have turned out. Nationalist bear. Always like to see the Bears. Question about, I mean, the whole thing about the gummy bears and so forth. I didn't quite understand if they were saying that there was a threat or whether the gummy bears were actually sent or whatever. But the thing is that you all need to realize that this is a actual cultural war. At this point in time, it's still relatively bloodless, but we don't know how long. Yeah, all the bears. Go with my blessing, Bears. Give my best regards to Owen. I have no problem. Just as I would expect the evil Legion of Evil to prioritize their Dark Lord, I certainly would expect the Bears to show up for Owen. Do you think all the destruction of nostalgia contributes to the program nihilism? To a certain extent, but what they want to do is they don't want to completely destroy the nostalgia. They want to pervert it. Let's see here. I mean, I've thought a lot. I already answered the question about the James Field case. Don't ask me questions I've answered before. The thing that people like Owen, who is relatively new to the culture war, need to understand is that you can't reason with these people. A lot of folks like Owen, they come across some of the ideas that I point out, or they read SJWs Always Lie, and they think I'm exaggerating. But honestly, I'm not. It's not an exaggeration. You need to realize that it is actually worse than that in many situations. It's not always going to be worse than that. Sometimes it's not as bad. But on average, SJWs Always Lie and SJWs Always Double Down are probably on the conservative side of the actual situation and how bad it's gotten. What's your recommendation for trustworthy news sources? I don't trust any of them. None of them are particularly reliable. So, just be aware of the bias and account for it in your head. Let's see. I'm sure you're not up to date, but Owen is headed down a dark path this last couple of weeks. You can't reason with it. See, that's not true. I don't think that Owen is headed down a dark path at all. I think that he is finally beginning to come to terms with what the actual situation is. Yes, of course I believe in demons. I'm a Christian. I think the constant infighting in the alt-right can be instigated deliberately by infiltrators. Um, I don't think so. I think that I think that there's an amount of truth to that, but the fact is there's no such thing as the alt-right per se. You know, all alt-right ever meant was alternative right. The right wing that is not the conventional conservative establishment, that is not the libertarian establishment. The whole idea of like a brand and anointing a leader and all that stuff, this is retarded. Absolutely retarded. You know, and it all worked out for Richard Spencer about as well as I imagined it would. Do you think 5G is dangerous? I have absolutely no idea. Let's see. Concern trolls got a concern troll. Yeah, I mean, there's just just don't, at least on this channel. Let's see. Thanks for having Owens back. You're both decent guys. The masses are brainwashed by the establishment and want to jump down anyone's throat that questions the narrative. Well, there's no question about that. I mean, why do you think so many people hate me? You know, I mean, I doubt the narrative. I refuse to accept the narrative. And there's a lot of people, even those who self-identify as being strong right-wing conservatives, who absolutely hate me. So be it. Let's see. Let's see. Why do people get so emotional about the moon thing? Is it a boomer thing? Well, I think it's two things. I think it is a boomer thing. And I think that it is one of those things that people simply never questioned. And it's very difficult to question things that you consider to be a core base assumption of how the world works. You know, I don't get annoyed or irritated with people that get their panties in a bunch over my being skeptical about the theorem of evolution by natural selection, genetic flow, gene drift, and sexual selection. I expect them to, think that my skepticism is crazy. And the same thing with the moon thing. Although like I said, I don't care about the moon thing at all. If you search through my blog, I think that the last time that I mentioned it was 2006. There was like one little post on 2006. And so, it's just nuts. Although I have to say though that I have a killer idea for a science comedy about NASA and the moon landings, and it should be. I actually wrote part of the script and sent it off to Owen, and I think it's really, really freaking funny. And so it'll be hilarious if we ever get the chance to make something like that. Let's see. Thoughts on Jim Goad as a writer? I have no thoughts about him. Again, stop asking me what I think about certain people. My usual answer is I've never heard of that person, and I don't care about that person, and I don't want you telling me about that person. Would your estimation of Pat Buchanan change if the moon landings were fake? No. Why would it? Do I believe in natural selection? I believe that it happens. I don't believe that it is a strong enough force to transform one species into another. let's see here. Okay, here's a good answer. The moon thing requires a level of loss of trust in the government that is painful. Even after JFK and the others, if you give up trust in a fundamental part of your life, it's very painful. Yeah, that is true. This is ironic. I led my brother to Jordan Peterson. Now I've started telling him about you, and he gets angry. I think he's got a point. Hey, this is so great. This is so great. Oh, wait a minute. This is terrible for you. It's really bad for you. If nothing else, you can understand where he's maybe not going to like follow your lead the next time. Look, this is not the kind of question to ever ask me. Thoughts on the Nick Fuentes and JF beef? Don't know about it. Don't care. Even if I did know about it and did care, I wouldn't talk publicly about it. Okay? I don't believe in getting involved in internet drama. Now, you might think that it's a hobby of mine or something, given that I do find myself caught up in it occasionally. But if you look at every single time I've been caught up in any sort of internet drama, it actually has a more substantial, significant basis. It's not ever about personalities and that sort of thing. Let's see. Would the character John Rambo be a Sigma male? Probably, yeah. Is evil dramatically on the rise, or am I just noticing it more? It has become more powerful. It is more open. It has successfully infiltrated and negated many of the institutions that used to keep it repressed. It is celebrated in a way that it was not celebrated 30, 40 years ago. I am right-handed. Let's see here. I'm looking forward to doing for your stream with the Big Bear. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, the thing is, I like honest people. I like people who seek the truth. That's why I like Stefan Molyneux. That's why I like Owen. Everybody's got their areas that they're a bit, shy on, but that's fine. So let's see here. Yeah, that is funny. Owen hammered the atheist Old Testament, Darwinism, macroevolution, and a few weeks later, their New Testament, the moon landing. That is one way of looking at it. So, advice to young content creators: build your own audiences. Don't try to glom on to anybody else's. You got to build your own audiences. You can't count on the publishers or anybody else doing it for you. I mean, yes, it happens, but you shouldn't count on it. So, yeah, this is a good, Evan puts it well. Evil has gone from being culturally rejected to culturally demanded in my lifetime. Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much just viciousness in this cultural war. I keep seeing gamma males in the books and comics I read, and it's pretty infuriating knowing that they'll keep screwing up in the future chapters. Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. No, this is ridiculous. Owen is not seeking the truth lately. He is seeking confirmation of his mistaken conclusions. No, he's not doing that. He may be wrong, but he's not just... He's not... That's not a fair portrayal of the way that he has been looking at things. So, where did Antifa come from? Antifa has been around since Germany in the 30s. Antifa is literally the inheritors of the 1930s German communists. Will you bait Stefan? Who should you debate next? I'm not doing debates and media and new media anymore. I don't have the time for it. I don't have the inclination for it. And it always turns out to be a problem. You know, even if I just do a simple interview with someone, you know, it leads to these unforeseen, impossible to foresee consequences that are not worth it. You know, I mean, you would be amazed at where you can trace these various things back to. I say something in one interview, it gets spun into something else by somebody who listens to that, and then a third party sees what the second party did and pushes a fourth party into taking action against us based on the completely twisted, completely false interpretation by the second party. I'm not playing that game anymore. You know, if people want to hear what I think, read the blog, read my books, you know, subscribe to the Darkstream, watch Voxiversity. You know, there's plenty of information out there. You don't need to see me beating up on, you know, some overmatched internet celebrity or something. I mean, you know, also, even when you debate someone, look at Peterson debates Sam Harris, gets prison raped intellectually, and then how many of his fans did he lose over that? You know, very, very few. So what's the point? Anyhow, you know, there's plenty of Ralph says, what I read about you online is insane. Oh, it's just crazy. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, I mean, my wife was like, wait, you were married before? When did that happen? I'm like, I have no idea. You know, it's just insane. Do you think that evil is on the rise because of the drop of military? No, I don't think so. Sam Harris complains about the same thing always being misinterpreted. Yeah, the difference is Sam Harris isn't misinterpreted. Sam Harris says something, he clearly means something. And then when he gets called on it, he tries to claim that he meant something else. But then later, he'll go back and say something that makes it clear that he actually did really mean the original meaning. I mean, Sam Harris is not a serious intellectual in any way, shape, or form. I'm not talking about that kind of misinterpretation. I'm talking about where you mention a word in a specific context about someone else, and then they go and make the claim about you. I mean, we're not talking about misinterpretation. We're talking about absolutely, fundamentally perverting and twisting things in a manner that is totally absurd and totally unjustifiable. Let's see. Evil is rising because people hate God. That is absolutely true. Didn't Sam Harris lose to William Craig? Yes. Didn't his fans insist it was the other way around? Some of them do try to do that. Let's see. The Stop Quoting Me Club, Harris and Peterson co-chairs. That's funny. Oh my goodness. Candace Owen versus Russell Brand. That sounds like something I don't ever want to even hear anything about. So anyhow, I should get going, but let me remind you that we have our first 2 audiobooks now up for sale in the Arkhaven Comic Store. A Magic Broken by yours truly, and The 4 Generations of Modern War by William S. Lind. In both cases, They actually come with the ebook in both EPUB and Mobi/Kindle format. So if you have any interest in either one of them, I definitely encourage you to pick it up. You're going to see Jordanetics come out there. We're very excited about what we're going to be doing. So I hope you'll continue to support it. And that will do it for the Darkstream tonight. Have a good evening, and we look forward to seeing you at the next stream.